The starship *EOS* drifted silently through the void, its sleek metallic frame glinting faintly under the light of a distant sun. Captain Elric Voss leaned back in his command chair, staring at the holographic display before him. It had been weeks since their last mission, and boredom was starting to creep into the crew's routine. But then, without warning, the ship's sensors picked up something unusual, a weak distress signal emanating from an uncharted planet deep within a nebula. The message was fragmented, barely intelligible. Static crackled between broken words, but one phrase stood out clearly. "Help me." That single plea sent shivers down Elric's spine. He turned to his first officer, Commander Mira Kane, who raised an eyebrow skeptically. "Uncharted territory," she said. "Could be dangerous." Elric nodded. Danger wasn't new to him. He'd faced it countless times during his decades as an explorer. Still, there was something about this call that tugged at his instincts. Ignoring the risks, he ordered the crew to set a course for the source of the signal. As they approached the mysterious planet, the view outside the cockpit took everyone's breath away. Twin moons hung low over a lush landscape filled with glowing vegetation. Rivers shimmered like liquid silver beneath skies painted in hues of violet and gold. At the heart of it all stood a massive crystalline palace, its spires reaching skyward like frozen lightning bolts. "This place looks untouched," muttered Lieutenant Jax, the ship's engineer, peering out the window. "Almost too perfect." Elric agreed. There was an eerie beauty to the world below, but also an undeniable sense of mystery. After landing near the edge of the forest, he led a small team toward the palace. They moved cautiously, weapons ready, though no signs of hostility greeted them. Instead, the air buzzed softly, as if alive with energy. When they reached the entrance, Elric noticed faint symbols etched into the crystal walls. Before anyone could decipher them, the ground trembled slightly, and part of the wall slid open, revealing the dimly lit corridor. Against protocol, curiosity got the better of him. He stepped inside alone, leaving the others behind to guard the perimeter. The hallway twisted unpredictably, leading deeper into the structure. Finally, he pushed through another doorway and froze. There, standing in the center of the room, was a figure unlike anything he'd ever seen. She was tall and slender, her skin covered in intricate patterns that pulsed gently with light. Her hair flowed like strands of liquid starlight, cascading down her shoulders. And she was completely bare, no clothing, no adornments, just the radiant glow of her body. Her eyes widened in shock when she saw him. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then, instinctively, she raised her hands, summoning a translucent barrier of energy around herself. Her expression shifted from surprise to confusion, then to cautious curiosity. Elric swallowed hard, unsure whether to apologize or explain himself. Whatever this situation was, it was clear he hadn't expected this asterisk, and judging by her reaction, neither had she. This opening sets the stage for intrigue and wonder while introducing key elements of the story. The protagonist, the alien princess, and the mysterious setting, all written in simple yet engaging English. Let me know if you'd like adjustments. Elric's decision to help the Lumiva came with challenges far greater than he had anticipated. As he returned to the *EOS* to brief his crew, doubts lingered in his mind. Could humanity truly assist a species so different from their own? And even if they could, would his team be willing to take such a monumental risk? When Elric gathered the crew in the ship's briefing room, the atmosphere was tense. The holographic display flickered to life, showing images of the glowing planet and sketches of Lyran's people. "This is why we're here," Elric began, his voice steady but serious. He explained the Lumiva's plight, their dying energy source, and the dire consequences for their civilization. Commander Mira Kane crossed her arms, skepticism etched on her face. "Captain, we don't even know if our technology is compatible with theirs. What if we make things worse?" Lieutenant Jax chimed in, scratching his scruffy beard. "And what about Earth? If we divert resources to save them, How does that affect us? We're explorers, not miracle workers. Elric understood their concerns. Resources were limited, and every action carried risks. But as he looked around at his crew, he saw something deeper beneath their objections. Fear. Fear of failure. Fear of the unknown. Fear of stepping too far outside the boundaries of what humanity had always done. We didn't come this far just to turn away when someone needs us, Elric said firmly. Yes, it's risky. But isn't that why we're out here? To push boundaries, to learn, to grow. His words hung in the air, challenging each person to rise above their doubts. After a long silence, Lieutenant Jack sighed and nodded. All right, Captain. Let's see what we can do. With renewed determination, the team returned to the palace to meet with Lorraine. She greeted them warmly, her glow brightening at the sight of their willingness to help. Over the next few days, Elric and his crew worked closely with the Lumive, learning about their advanced yet fragile ecosystem. The aliens' technology was breathtaking. Entire cities powered by living organisms, machines that grew like plants, and energy grids woven seamlessly into nature. But despite its elegance, the system relied entirely on a single core buried deep within the planet. Without it, everything would collapse. Elric realized the solution wouldn't be simple. They couldn't just replace the core. They needed to adapt both human engineering and Lumiva biology to create something sustainable. The process required collaboration unlike anything Elric had ever experienced. Lorraine introduced him to the Lumive's most sacred spaces, an underground chamber filled with glowing crystals that pulsed in rhythm with the planet's heartbeat. She called it the Nexus, the source of all life on her world. Standing there, surrounded by waves of radiant energy, Elric felt humbled. This wasn't just science. It was art, spirituality, survival. Yet, progress was slow. Misunderstandings arose frequently. When Elric suggested using mechanical drills to extract minerals near the Nexus, Lorraine recoiled in horror. To her, the idea of damaging the planet, even slightly, was unthinkable. Instead, she demonstrated a gentler method, coaxing the crystals to release their energy through sound vibrations. It was alien, beautiful, and frustratingly inefficient by human standards. Tensions flared between the two groups, but Elric refused to let disagreements derail their efforts. He reminded everyone, including himself, that success depended on compromise. Slowly, trust began to form. Jax marveled at the Lumive's ability to manipulate energy, while Lorraine admired humanity's ingenuity in creating tools that bent the laws of physics. One evening, as the twin moons cast silvery light over the palace, Elric found Lorraine standing alone on a balcony overlooking the forest. Her glow was softer now, almost melancholic. "Do you think we can do it?" she asked, her mental voice tinged with uncertainty. Elric stepped beside her, gazing at the shimmering horizon. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I believe we have to try. For your people, for mine, for everyone who comes after us." Lorraine turned to him, her luminous eyes filled with gratitude. In that moment, Elric knew they were no longer strangers. They were partners, united by hope and purpose. This section highlights the growing bond between humans and the Lumive, while emphasizing the challenges of cross-cultural collaboration. It keeps readers engaged with vivid descriptions, emotional depth, and a sense of shared determination. Let me know if you'd like adjustments. Elric stood frozen, his mind racing to process what he was seeing. The alien princess, her glowing skin and shimmering hair, was unlike anything in human history. Her expression softened slightly as she lowered her energy barrier, though her posture remained guarded. She tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that made him feel both exposed and insignificant. Then, without warning, a voice echoed in his mind, not through his ears, but directly in his thoughts. Asterisk, who are you? Why have you come here? Asterisk, the words were calm but tinged with suspicion. Elric blinked, startled by the telepathic communication. He raised his hand slowly, palms outward, to show he meant no harm. "I'm Captain Elric Voss," he said aloud, unsure if she could hear him. "We received a distress signal from this planet. I came to help." The princess hesitated, then nodded faintly. Her glowing patterns shifted, pulsing brighter for a moment before dimming again. It was as if her body itself was speaking a language Elric couldn't yet understand. She gestured toward a nearby chair-like structure made of crystal, inviting him to sit. Though wary, Elric complied, sensing that aggression wasn't her intention. As they communicated, her through thought, him through spoken words, they began to bridge the gap between their vastly different cultures. Her name, she revealed, was Lyrain. She belonged to the Lumivae, a species whose bodies generated light as a natural defense mechanism. Clothing was unnecessary for them. Their radiant skin served not only as protection, but also as a form of expression. To cover themselves would be akin to silencing their voices. Despite this explanation, Elric struggled to fully grasp the concept. His own upbringing had taught him modesty and privacy, values deeply ingrained in human society. Yet he forced himself to set aside his discomfort, realizing that judging her culture by Earth's standards would only create barriers. Lyrain, too, seemed intrigued by Elric's presence. She reached out tentatively, brushing her fingers against his arm. The touch sent a jolt through him, not painful, but strange, like static electricity mixed with warmth. Through the contact, images flooded his mind. Towering trees ablaze with bioluminescence, rivers flowing with liquid light, and skies filled with swirling constellations. These weren't just random pictures. They were memories, fragments of Lyrain's life on this world. But amidst the beauty, darker images surfaced. Cracks spreading across once vibrant landscapes, creatures retreating into shadows. People, Lumivae, fading away, their lights dimming until they vanished altogether. Elric frowned, pulling back slightly. "What happened here?" he asked, his voice tinged with concern. Lyrain's glow dimmed noticeably, her shoulders sagging. Through fragmented thoughts, she conveyed the truth. Her people were dying. Their survival depended on a core energy source buried deep within the planet, a source that was rapidly depleting. Without intervention, the Lumivae would perish, leaving their world lifeless and dark. Elric felt a pang of guilt. He hadn't expected this. What started as a simple investigation had turned into something far more urgent. But even as doubt crept into his mind about whether humanity could truly help, he saw the desperation in Lyrain's eyes. This wasn't just about curiosity anymore. It was about saving an entire civilization. Before he could respond, Lyrain straightened, her glow returning stronger than before. Asterisk. "Will you help us?" Asterisk, she asked, her mental voice steady despite the weight of her plea. Elric took a deep breath, knowing the enormity of the task ahead. "Yes," he replied firmly. "We'll do everything we can." This section introduces the cultural differences between humans and the Lumivae, while highlighting the stakes of the story. It keeps the tone engaging and accessible, using simple yet vivid language to draw readers deeper into the narrative. Let me know if you'd like any tweaks. As days turned into weeks, the collaboration between Elric's crew and the Lumivae deepened. The work was grueling, requiring long hours of experimentation and trial and error. Yet, amidst the challenges, something unexpected began to blossom. A bond that transcended language, culture, and even species. Elric spent most of his time with Lyrain, learning about her people's traditions and sharing stories of Earth. He discovered that the Lumivae communicated not only through telepathy, but also through their glowing patterns, which shifted like living art to convey emotions and ideas. One evening, as they sat together in the palace gardens, Lyrain demonstrated this by creating intricate designs on her skin. Swirling constellations, flowing rivers, and blooming flowers, all while explaining their meanings. "It's beautiful," Elric murmured, watching the lights dance across her arms, like poetry made visible. Lyrain smiled faintly, her glow brightening at his admiration. Asterisk, for us, it is more than beauty. It is who we are. Asterisk, she paused, then added, asterisk, and you. What makes your kind special? Asterisk. Elric hesitated, unsure how to answer. Humans were complex, flawed, and often divided, but also resilient, creative, and capable of extraordinary compassion. I guess what makes us special is our ability to adapt, he said finally. We're not perfect, but we keep trying, even when things seem impossible. Lyran studied him for a moment, her glowing patterns shifting thoughtfully. Then she stood and gestured for him to follow. They walked through the garden until they reached a large clearing where dozens of Lumiva had gathered. In the center stood a shimmering platform surrounded by crystals, their light pulsing in harmony. This is the ritual of light, Lyran explained, a sacred tradition among my people. We share pieces of ourselves, our hopes, fears, dreams with one another. Elric watched in awe as the Lumiva stepped onto the platform one by one, their bodies radiating vivid colors and shapes that told stories without words. Some glowed brightly with joy, others flickered softly with sorrow. Each display was unique, yet all were connected by an underlying thread of unity. When it was Lyran's turn, she hesitated before stepping forward. Her glow intensified, revealing fragments of her soul, her love for her people, her fear of failure, her quiet determination to save them. Elric felt a lump rise in his throat as he witnessed her vulnerability. For someone so radiant and strong, she carried a weight far heavier than he'd realized. Then, to everyone's surprise, Lyran turned to Elric and extended her hand. Asterisk, will you join me? Asterisk, she asked, her mental voice gentle but firm. Elric froze, unsure if he should accept. He wasn't Lumiva. He didn't have glowing skin or the ability to project his thoughts visually. But Lyran's expression was unwavering, filled with trust and curiosity. Slowly, he nodded and stepped onto the platform beside her. The moment his foot touched the surface, the crystals around them flared to life, bathing the area in warm, golden light. Though he couldn't replicate the Lumiva's displays, Elric found himself speaking aloud, sharing his own story, his childhood dreams of exploring the stars, the sacrifices he'd made, and the hope that drove him forward. As he spoke, the crystals seemed to respond, casting reflections of his words into shimmering patterns above them. The crowd of Lumiva watched silently, their glows dimming in reverence. When Elric finished, Lyran placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch warm and reassuring. Asterisk, you are more than I thought, asterisk, she said softly. Asterisk, your light shines differently, but it shines just the same. Asterisk. In that moment, Elric felt a profound connection, not just with Lyran, but with the entire Lumiva civilization. Their differences no longer felt like barriers. Instead, they became strengths, weaving together two worlds in ways neither side could have imagined. As they left the clearing together, Elric realized that this mission was no longer just about saving the Lumiva. It was about proving that cooperation, empathy, and understanding could bridge even the widest gaps. This section focuses on character development and emotional depth, showing how Elric and Lyran grow closer while emphasizing themes of unity and mutual respect. The scene with the ritual of light adds a magical, memorable element to their bond. Let me know if you'd like any changes. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. With renewed determination, Elric and Lyran worked tirelessly alongside their teams to develop a solution for the Lumiva's dying energy source. The hybrid system they envisioned would combine human engineering with Lumiva biotechnology, a fusion of science and nature unlike anything ever attempted. Elric knew the key lay in extracting vital minerals from deep within the planet's crust, which could stabilize the Nexus. However, reaching these resources required navigating treacherous terrain filled with jagged cliffs, unstable ground, and hostile creatures defending their territory. It was a perilous task, but one they couldn't avoid. One morning, Elric led a small team into the forest, accompanied by Liraine and several Lumiva guides. The air was thick with humidity, and the glowing plants cast eerie shadows as they ventured deeper into the wilderness. Despite the beauty surrounding them, there was an underlying tension. Every rustle of leaves or distant growl reminded them of the dangers lurking nearby. As they approached a rocky ravine where the minerals were believed to be abundant, disaster struck. A massive predator emerged from the underbrush, a creature resembling a mix between a wolf and a serpent, its body covered in shimmering scales that reflected light like mirrors. Its eyes glowed fiercely as it lunged toward the group. "Take cover," Elric shouted, drawing his weapon. The Lumiva reacted instinctively, forming a protective circle around Liraine while emitting pulses of bright light to disorient the beast. Lieutenant Jax fired a stun blast, but the creature dodged with surprising agility. Liraine stepped forward, her glow intensifying. She raised her hands, and a wave of energy surged outward, forcing the creature to retreat momentarily. "We need to move now," she urged, her mental voice sharp with urgency. The group scrambled across the ravine, narrowly avoiding another attack. Elric grabbed Liraine's hand as they climbed a steep slope, their combined strength keeping them steady. When they finally reached safety, they collapsed onto the ground, breathing heavily. "That was too close," Jax muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. Elric nodded, glancing at Liraine. Her usual calm demeanor had been shaken, but her determination remained unbroken. "We can't let fear stop us," she said firmly. "Our survival depends on this." Back at the palace, the team worked late into the night, refining their designs and testing prototypes. Progress was slow, fraught with setbacks and frustrations. One attempt to integrate human machinery with Lumiva crystals resulted in a catastrophic overload, sending shards of crystal flying across the lab. No one was hurt, but the incident left everyone shaken. Commander Mira Kane voiced her concerns during a tense meeting. "At this rate, we'll run out of time before we even get close to a solution," she said grimly. Elric clenched his fists, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He turned to Liraine, who sat quietly, her glow dimmed with exhaustion. "We have to keep trying," he insisted. "Failure isn't an option, for your people or mine." Inspired by his resolve, the team redoubled their efforts. They began experimenting with smaller-scale models, learning how to harmonize the two technologies without causing instability. Slowly, breakthroughs emerged. Jax discovered a way to modulate the energy flow using sound frequencies similar to those used by the Lumiva. Mira devised a fail-safe mechanism to prevent future overloads. Through it all, Elric and Liraine remained at the heart of the project, their bond growing stronger with each challenge they faced. Late one night, as they reviewed data together, Liraine placed a gentle hand on Elric's arm. "You've given me hope," she said softly. "He didn't think such unity was possible." Elric smiled, though his eyes betrayed his fatigue. "Neither did I. But maybe that's the point. We're proving that anything is possible when we work together." Despite the hardships, the team's perseverance paid off. By the end of the week, they had constructed a functional prototype of the hybrid system. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to test on a small section of the Nexus. When they activated the device for the first time, the room lit up with a soft, steady glow. For the first time in months, the Lumiva's energy grid stabilized. Cheers erupted among the crew and the Lumiva alike, but Elric knew the hardest part was yet to come, scaling the system to support the entire planet. Still, as he looked at Liraine's radiant smile, he felt a surge of optimism. Against all odds, they were making progress. And for now, that was enough. This section balances action, tension, and emotional moments, keeping readers engaged while advancing the plot. Let me know if you'd like adjustments. Just as hope began to take root, darkness crept into the fragile alliance between humans and the Lumivae. The prototype had proven successful on a small scale, But scaling it up to stabilize the entire planet required more resources and trust than anyone had anticipated. Tensions simmered beneath the surface, threatening to unravel everything Elric and Lorraine had worked so hard to build. It started with subtle signs. Equipment went missing from the lab. Data logs showed unauthorized access during late-night hours. At first, Elric dismissed these incidents as accidents or misunderstandings, but when critical components of the hybrid system were sabotaged, he knew something was wrong. The breakthrough came when Lieutenant Jax discovered traces of human fingerprints on damaged machinery, fingerprints that didn't belong to him or any of the trusted crew members. Suspicion fell on Ensign Dara Quinn, a junior engineer who had been unusually quiet throughout the mission. When confronted, Dara refused to meet Elric's gaze, her hands trembling as she clutched a diagnostic tablet. "I did what I had to do," Dara admitted finally, tears streaming down her face. "You don't understand, Captain. If we save the Lumive, we're risking Earth's future. Their survival means diverting resources we might need for ourselves. How can you justify putting them ahead of humanity?" Elric felt a surge of anger, but he forced himself to stay calm. "We aren't choosing one over the other," he said firmly. "Helping them doesn't mean abandoning our own people. Cooperation benefits everyone." Dara shook her head, her voice rising in desperation. "That's easy for you to say. You haven't seen the reports from home, the shortages, the political unrest. Every second we spend here is a second wasted for Earth." Her words struck a nerve. Elric couldn't deny the struggles back on Earth, but he also knew that turning their backs on the Lumivo would set a dangerous precedent. Humanity's expansion into the stars wasn't just about claiming new worlds. It was about forging connections, learning from others, and proving they could rise above selfishness. Before Dara could argue further, Commander Mira Kane stepped forward, her expression stern. "Enough," she said sharply. "Your actions have jeopardized not only this mission, but the lives of everyone involved. You'll be confined to quarters until we decide how to handle this." As Dara was led away, the room fell silent. The betrayal left a bitter taste in everyone's mouths, and even Lorraine, who had witnessed the confrontation, seemed shaken. Her glow dimmed noticeably as she turned to Elric. "Do your people always act this way?" She asked, her mental voice tinged with sadness. Elric sighed, rubbing his temples. "Not all of us," he replied. "But fear and doubt are powerful forces. They make people do things they wouldn't normally consider." Despite the setback, there was no time to dwell on the betrayal. The sabotage had triggered a chain reaction within the Nexus, causing fluctuations in the energy grid. If left unchecked, the instability could spread, endangering both the Lumiva and the human crew. Elric rallied his team, urging them to put aside their differences and focus on repairing the damage. Working around the clock, they managed to contain the worst of the crisis, but the incident left scars. Trust between the two groups wavered, and some Lumivae began questioning whether humanity truly deserved their cooperation. Even Lorraine struggled to reconcile her faith in Elric with the actions of his crewmate. One evening, as they stood together overlooking the glowing forest, Lyran broke the silence. "I believed in you, she said softly. In all of you. But now, I wonder if I was wrong." Elric's heart sank at her words. He placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice steady despite the weight of his emotions. "We're not perfect, Lyran, but we're trying. And sometimes, trying is enough." Lyran studied him for a long moment before nodding slowly. "Then prove it, she said. Prove that your kind can overcome its flaws. With renewed determination, Elric threw himself into the final stages of the project. The crew and the Lumivae worked side by side, mending not only the technology, but also the fragile bonds between them. Slowly, trust began to rebuild, brick by brick. By the time the hybrid system was ready for full implementation, exhaustion hung heavy over everyone. But as they activated the device, and watched the Nexus stabilize once more, a collective sigh of relief swept through the palace. For the first time in months, the Lumiviz world pulsed with steady, vibrant light. Yet, even as celebration loomed, Elric couldn't shake the lingering shadow of Dara's betrayal. It was a reminder that progress often came at a cost, and that unity required constant vigilance. This section introduces conflict and tension, while emphasizing themes of trust. The final activation of the hybrid energy system marked a turning point not just for the Lumive, but for humanity as well. As the Nexus stabilized, waves of radiant light spread across the planet, breathing new life into the once dying ecosystem. Rivers flowed brighter, forests shimmered with renewed vitality, and the skies above glowed like a canvas of stars. It was a sight that left everyone, human and Lumive alike, in awe. Elric stood beside Lorraine on the palace balcony, watching as her people celebrated below. The Lumive danced in harmony, their glowing patterns weaving together like threads in an intricate tapestry. Laughter and music filled the air, blending with the soft hum of the revitalized energy grid. For the first time in months, hope had replaced despair. Lorraine turned to Elric, her glow pulsing warmly. "You've saved us." She said, her mental voice brimming with gratitude. "Not just my people, but our future." Elric shook his head modestly. "We did it together. Without your guidance and your trust, we wouldn't have succeeded." Her expression softened, and she reached out to place a hand on his arm. Trust isn't given lightly among my kind. But you've earned it, Captain Voss." She paused, then added, "and perhaps something more." Elric felt a pang of emotion at her words. Over the weeks, their bond had grown deeper than either of them could have imagined. They came from different worlds, yet they had found common ground in their shared determination to protect what mattered most. Though he knew their paths would eventually diverge, the connection they shared would remain etched in his memory forever. As the celebration continued, Lorraine presented Elric with a gift, a small crystal fragment that pulsed faintly with light. "This is a piece of our world," she explained. "It will remind you of what we've built here, and of the bridges we can create when we choose to understand one another." Elric accepted the crystal, holding it carefully in his palm. Its warmth seemed to echo the light of the Lumiviz world, and of Lorraine herself. "Thank you," he said simply, though his voice carried the weight of countless unspoken emotions. Before departing, Elric gathered his crew for a final briefing. The mood was bittersweet. While the mission had been a success, the shadow of Dara's betrayal still lingered. Ensign Quinn had been placed under arrest and would face judgment upon their return to Earth. Yet, even amidst the disappointment, there was a sense of pride. They had proven that humanity could rise above its flaws, and that cooperation, no matter how difficult, was always worth pursuing. As the EOS lifted off, leaving the glowing planet behind, Elric gazed out the cockpit window. He thought about Lorraine, about the sacrifices her people had made, and about the lessons they had taught him. This mission wasn't just about saving the Lumive. It was about redefining what it meant to be human. Back on the planet, Lorraine watched the starship disappear into the sky. Her glow dimmed slightly, but her heart remained full. She whispered to the cosmos, "Thank you." It was a message not just to Elric, but to all those who dared to dream of a better future. Weeks later, as the EOS approached Earth, Elric held the crystal fragment close, feeling its faint pulse against his skin. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Humanity still faced challenges, shortages, political tensions, and the ever-present struggle for unity. But as long as people were willing to reach out, to listen, and to work together, there was hope. When the ship finally docked, reporters swarmed the crew, eager for details about their groundbreaking mission. Elric stepped forward, his posture confident despite the fatigue etched on his face. "We didn't just save a civilization," he told them. "We proved that cooperation knows no boundaries, not species, not culture, not fear. And if we can do that once, we can do it again." His words resonated deeply, sparking conversations across the globe. The story of the Lumiva became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, light could emerge when hearts opened to understanding. For Elric, the journey had changed him forever. He carried the memory of Lorraine and her world within him, a beacon guiding him toward a brighter, more interconnected future. And somewhere, beneath twin moons, Lorraine looked to the stars, knowing that their bond would endure, a testament to the power of unity across worlds. This final part wraps up the story with emotional closure, thematic depth, and a hopeful outlook, leaving readers inspired. Let me know if you'd like any tweaks.